Are you ready to uplevel your sales game? Well, here is a gift for you. It is the Mastering the Sales Conversation mini training. This training gives you my proven step-by-step approach to sales so that you can go from that overwhelmed and intimidated approach that you have to sales to feeling confident and leading a conversation so that you easily guide somebody to hiring you. You can get it right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/mastering. This is my gift to you. Go grab it now.
Do sales conversations make you feel awkward or pushy? It's time to ditch the outdated salesy strategies. Your guide, Nikki Rausch, will show you how to combine kindness with selling skills to meet your prospects where they are, and in the process, how to uplevel your influence and income. Learn how to earn business easily and effortlessly. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch. Today's episode is part of the Mastering Excellence series. This is a concept that comes from my background in neuro-linguistic programming, where we learn that there is a structure to excellence. And once you understand the structure of how somebody is achieving exceptional results in some area of their life or business, you can take that structure and apply it to your own life or business so that you can see some similar results. Today's guest is Maven Katchagan. Let me tell you a little bit about Maven. She is a direct response copywriter and strategist with a track record of sold out launches. She helps purpose-driven coaches, speakers, and service providers articulate their brilliance to make more sales with her signature 3M roadmap method. A Stanford University Teaching Award winner with a master's in education, Maven knows how to turn attention into action. I love that sentence. She has worked with 2 Comma Club award winners and funnel hacking live speakers, delivering standout results like writing ads for a $250,000 launch and generating over $1 million in revenue for clients. Maven has been featured in the Copy Confidence Society and on podcasts such as The Paid Copywriter. Her approach combines marketing strategy, buyer psychology, and industry expertise to create aligned, data-driven strategies that increase conversions so that you can stay in your zone of genius, serving more of your dream clients. When she's not copywriting, you'll find her outside in the Southern California sunshine or dancing in the kitchen with her husband and her 2 little ones. Maven, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. I appreciate that.
So fun to have you here. And I'm so excited to get into this conversation. So what we're going to talk about today with Maven specifically is how to identify your client's blind spots so that you can deliver a better buying experience for them. And I'm super excited to dive in. But before we do that, give us a little bit more about how you're working with clients, a little bit more about you that's outside of the bio so that we can get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah. So I work with clients. I do a lot of done-for-you copywriting services. So most of my clients are good at writing, but it's just a matter of time. They want that eye for conversion on it. They want someone who just truly gets them and can bring out more of them, like their true self and their true voice. So it sounds even more like who they actually are, especially for those personal brands. And then I also love to do done with you work through my Copy Critique Club, where you get to submit and then just make those changes. So I'll send you either a Loom video or a Google Doc, and just highly take action, see those conversions, get more of the right buyers into your world, so that you can do what you do best.
Now, one of the reasons why we chose this topic in particular is because you had said to me that there are things that ChatGPT cannot do, right? Like it may be able to improve on a sentence, but it doesn't know how to dig in and understand your mission. And it doesn't know how to ask you the right questions so that you can articulate that. And that is the thing that to me makes the copywriter such a unique and valuable resource in a coaching business or any business really. But to have somebody who can ask you those questions, who can, again, what we're going to talk about today is identify some of your blind spots. Because sometimes the stuff that seems so easy to you, you don't think is important, but yet it's like your secret sauce. Would you agree?
Yes, totally. Yeah, because it's your normal, you don't necessarily see it as valuable because it's like, well, doesn't everyone do this? Doesn't everyone know this? But it's like, what is that analogy of like the fish doesn't know it's swimming in water because like that's just it's normal, you know, that's just what it breathes. And not everyone breathes copywriting, not everyone breathes sales, not everyone breathes, insert whatever your expertise is. And so it can make them feel like a fish out of water but your expertise, you can really bring, that, what am I trying to say? Bring your expertise in and serve people better that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think, again, speaks to where we're going to go today around identifying clients' blind spots so that you deliver a better buying experience. Because I know from my own experience of working with clients that when I can help highlight and emphasize those things that really do make them unique and special that they have probably overlooked, their experience of actually working with me goes up, right? Because it elevates me from a credibility standpoint of like, oh my gosh, nobody has ever pointed this out to me before. But more importantly, it builds their confidence, right? When they're out working with prospective clients, because they show up more, to me, it's like more fully as themselves and embrace all the parts of them that make them unique and special and make them the person that their buyer wants to hire.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think often you need that mirror to hold up to yourself to be able to see those things. And even if you consider yourself a confident person, a confident leader, like imposter syndrome reaches us all at some point and at every level, it's still there. It just looks different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having that that loving mirror held up to you, it does allow you to see more of yourself than maybe you're allowing yourself to see because you see yourself a certain way.
Yeah.
But the way someone else sees you might be totally different. And it's really eye-opening to realize like what you don't know or what you don't see or what you don't realize about yourself. And then that makes you more self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Which then, I think contributes to your confidence, contributes to your awareness of how you can continue to serve people at your highest and best capacity.
And I feel this way for my listeners in particular, but I feel like for most of us that are in a service-based business, like we have that servant's heart. We really want for our buyers to have an exceptional experience with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to dig into this conversation with you about how to identify the client's blind spot to deliver a better buying experience. So here's my first question for you around this is if I were to stand in for you for a day and I'm meeting with a prospective client for the first time, what is something that I have to do or how do I have to think and or behave, whichever seems easier to answer for you, in order to identify right off the bat this client's blind spot so that I'm going to deliver a better buying experience for them?
Oh, this is such a good question. Okay, so it comes down to really deeply listening. And so rewind. Deeply listening means I come into the conversation already having done my homework. So if they are my client, I have already read their website, binged their social media, binged their podcast, looked at, their most popular YouTube videos, like wherever they're showing up regularly on the internet, putting out content, I have already consumed it. So I know them, I know their brand, I know what is resonating with their audience, what is performing well for them, what angles are not performing well for them. And I'm coming into the conversation saving them time because I don't want them to have to tell me all these things that it's already out there on the internet, and it gives me the background and more context for the conversation that we're having so that I can more deeply listen to what they're actually saying. And so by that, I mean like what they're saying and then like the subtext deeper than that. And then like and often it's like what they're trying to say, because a lot of times it can come off as this like word vomit, brain dump, just like, and I'm just like, okay, lay it all on me, lay it all on me. And then I can parse through and be like, okay, they're chatting away for 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, okay, this is what you're trying to say. Like this sentence. And like, yes, that's it. So copywriter, right? We make things concise and like, I'm like, this is your thesis statement. This is the one thing. And so it allows me to really actively listen for what they're truly saying, which may not be what they're actually saying. It might be a layer underneath. It might be the thing that they're saying, but they're not saying it.
What would be an example of that? Like, do you have one that comes to mind of like, I don't know, not that you need to share anything about a client, but if there's something where you're like, this comes up a lot, or like, what would be an example of that?
I think when we get down to it, sometimes it's often a fear of visibility comes out. And that tends to be a really big thing. And even if they're already visible, getting to that next level of visibility is really scary. And maybe it's not even that writing copy is the problem for them, because like I said, many of my clients are actually very good writers. It's the fear of like, okay, if and when I put this out there, then what? What if, so-and-so from high school sees it? What would they say about, inner child me? What does that mean about me? What does that say about me? And it often really feels like an identity level. Like these are deep conversations that we're having. We're not just slapping words on the page, hoping they convert. Like these are very deep conversations that we're having. It's holding space for the things that come up that you weren't even expecting that was going to come up. And, is now the safe space to be able to share that story? Or is that story not for right now? What pieces of this story make sense to share to the point of what you're selling, to the point of relatability for your brand? So it is a very deep conversation that requires super, super deep listening as like a learned skill, not just like listening to a conversation as you're chatting with a friend, but like really, really deep listening.
And I think at least it feels like a light bulb went on for me. One of the things that you said in particular, when I was asking for the example, is that a lot of times it can be something about a fear that they have that they're struggling to articulate, or maybe they're saying it, but they're not actually saying like, I'm really afraid of being visible, but they're saying things that if you're paying really close attention, deeply listening to them, that you start to pick up like, oh, this could be this issue around a fear. I think that is super powerful. And I see that in my own work too with clients. And I suspect that my coaches see that in me too. So I got it. Okay. So my next question is, what are your goals when it comes to identifying your clients' blind spots, and then so that you're able to deliver this better buying experience for them? What are the goals?
Goals when I'm trying to identify their blind spots. So I think just having a whole 360 view of who you are or who your business is unlocks and uncovers these layers of what you're really trying to express. Because, and especially if you've been in business for a while, you like feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again. And I mean, repetition is good. That's how we remember things. That's how we learn. And like, yes, repetition is good in marketing. But to then like peel back the onion, so to speak, and like get to that next layer and just like get closer to that core of your message, of that thing you're really trying to say. Or what does that message and mission look like now in light of, the life that has happened and the experiences that you have had since, you last wrote your website, or since you've rebranded, or since, now you want to update your email sequence because they were converting, but they're not anymore. And, so much life has happened even in just like a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like it doesn't even have to be, a super long time, but so many people are like cringe when they're like, oh, I don't look at my website. It doesn't really reflect me anymore. And like, one, that's a good thing because it means you're growing, you're changing, you're not stagnant.
Yeah.
But then, okay, now it requires this, peeling back of the layers. Who are you now? How do we put that in words that, does justice to like the truth of who you are, and in a way that sells what you do with integrity and authenticity?
Yes. I love that idea of like your message and your mission. What does it look like now? I think for anybody in any kind of a coaching capacity, or specifically with what you're talking about here of like really helping them get that stronger copy that they need, is that recognizing that we do all change and we all evolve. And it can be scary because you don't know how to articulate it yet. So we need people like you out there helping like reveal these blind spots for us to articulate this. But I think with most of us, with any of our clients, like things change, and really looking at their experience of like, what's your message now? What's your mission now? Because it probably has evolved, even if it's like the core mission is still to, for me, it's to teach people how to sell with confidence, but that evolves too. And the way I talk about things evolves. As a matter of fact, I just shared some things on your podcast in a way that I've never really talked about a particular topic before. And I thought like, oh, that feels like an evolution in a way to me. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like you're speaking right to me with this. So thank you for that. Okay. So my next question is, how do you know you're achieving your goals? Like, what is the evidence for you when you're working with a client? The evidence that you've achieved this goal of like getting that message and that mission, and what it looks like now for them.
They get really fired up about their marketing again. It no longer feels like a chore. It no longer feels like a checklist of things they know they have to do to keep their business flowing, but they really just want to work with their clients. Yeah, it's the energy that comes with it. They get fired up because they feel really aligned again. Whereas maybe they had kind of fallen out of alignment because they had evolved, but they were still, talking about this message that was, still true. It's not wrong, but it wasn't the full, complete, where they have been taken to now. So it kind of lights a new fire for them. And just even from a personal perspective, that realization and confidence that comes from like, this is who I am, and really knowing that as a business owner allows you to step into your confidence more, allows you to walk into those rooms or to those visibility situations, knowing who you are and what you offer and how this helps people. So you don't shy away from those sales opportunities or those sales conversations when they happen, and you recognize those sales signals that we were talking about. And you're able to really capitalize on them in a way that feels good for both you and your prospective buyer, because you're so confident in who you are and what you offer and how you help people.
I love that too. Like the takeaway, you said so many really great things there, but the takeaway for me is like, it's working when you're like, you're identifying your clients' blind spots and you're delivering a better buying experience when they get fired up about the work that you guys are doing together. Like there's nothing better to me than a client that is super fired up and like ready to go and like I can't wait to make my next sales call, right? Like that feels like a huge win because like you said, it's like their confidence has increased. So I love that. Now, is there anything that you do in particular, like specifically to reach the goals? Like we know that, okay, they're fired up, but is there any particular thing that you do to make sure you're achieving that goal for them of like getting them fired up?
So I think misleading copywriting advice that we often hear is like, write as if you're talking to a fifth grader or a seventh grader
Mm,
or something like that. And oftentimes I think people are maybe slightly offended by that advice because they're like, well, I don't want to dumb it down what I do. I don't want to dumb down what I do. And, or my audience is smart. I don't want to talk to them like they're
like they're
dumb.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are conscious in the copywriting of like, well, I want to make it easily understandable, especially, in our day and age where people are likely scrolling on their phone quickly while they're, in the pickup line for their kids at school or in the grocery store, like they're doing something else as they're reading your copy. It's not like they're sitting down and academically studying it.
Right.
They're reading it on the go. So how can we write so that they can like understand it quickly? And it doesn't necessarily have to mean talking to a fifth grader. And I look at it more as like, I see myself and my job as a copywriter as like, I'm more of a translator
Mm,
of your expertise to people who don't have that, who are still smart, but just don't have that expertise. They don't have the PhD in what you have, or they don't have the certification in what you have. They are very smart in, whatever their field is, but this is not their field. What you do is not their field. And that's why they're hiring you,
that's right.
because that's not their
That's
expertise.
right.
And so and you like, don't know what you don't know, or kind of like the fish breathing in water kind of a thing. Like you might be using this jargon that is just normal for you, but to them, it feels like a whole new language.
Yeah.
And so as the copywriter, I'm not necessarily in your industry, but I'm a smart cookie and I get it. And so I can translate what you're saying so that someone who is not in that industry, who is not in that expertise, gets it and can understand why this is for them, why this benefits them without necessarily having to get that degree, get that
Right.
certification.
Or feeling like they're being talked down to. I love
Right.
that. I love
Yes.
that so much. Okay. So you're going into this meeting with a prospective client. You want to make sure that you're delivering this incredible buying experience for them. And so the idea is paying it or identifying their blind spots. So at what point in the meeting do you know, like, this is really time to pay attention to this? Like, what happens for you that like triggers you to go, like, pay attention right now?
I look for those golden threads of what keeps coming up, what do they approach, and then we maybe divert from or back away. They might tiptoe to it, and then that maybe seems scary.
Uh-huh.
Or they kind of keep talking about this from different angles or tell different stories that have this same theme. I am looking for those kinds of things and just reflecting, hey, I'm hearing you say this a lot, or this has come up in a couple of these different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about that. Or when I say, hey, this has come up in a few different ways, they're just kind of like, yeah, I know. Like that's the thing that I want to talk about that I don't want to talk about that I need to talk about, but I don't want to talk about.
Right. I love that you're paying such close attention, that you're looking for those themes, that you're looking for where are the places that they're getting so far and then they're backing away and then they're telling a story, but it kind of all relates to each other. And maybe they haven't quite made the connection yet. And that you comment on the connection and then ask questions and dig deeper. I think that is such a critical piece of your structure here. So I'm commenting to the audience here of like to ensure that your clients are having an incredible buying experience for you or from you. When you can pay attention like that and you're willing to check those things out to dig a little deeper and find out what truly for them is the connection, that is going to make a difference in their overall experience of working with you.
Yes.
I love that.
And I just get to be really curious in loving them and their story, and even the vulnerable parts of it, and some of it make it to the page and some don't. And it's a really cool experience.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my last question before we'll like start to wrap up is how do you know when to stop in the meeting?
I never want to. I feel like we could always keep going, but so for a client, we, have our certain deliverables that we are trying to write, whether it's a sales page, whether it's an email sequence, whether it's a website, whatever it is that we've decided that we want to work on for this particular project or this particular retainer. When I have enough information or enough aha to be like, okay, that is what we needed to be able to write this project piece successfully. And this is what your audience needs to hear from this, website, email sequence, fill in the blank, whatever we're working on. So yeah, I feel like part of it is like, I just know. And part of it is the questions feel complete. There's just a sense of, okay, we uncovered it. We don't need to beat a dead horse. We don't need to talk about it till we're blue in the face. There's just kind of this sense of we've had that aha, we've uncovered that blind spot. We get to sit in the delight of uncovering that piece and say, okay, this feels good. Or maybe this piece isn't ready to share yet. Just share this piece of the story still, works for what we're doing. And so we both sit and feel what is appropriately vulnerable to share, because we want to be vulnerable, to be relatable,
yes,
to have people connect with us, to have people feel like, oh my gosh, your story is my story too. And when people get that level of connection, even if you've never met them before, they just hear it on the podcast or read it in your copy, they feel like they know you, then they want to buy from you.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important to have, these moments in your copy. And at the same time, we want to respect not everything needs to be online. Not everything needs to be out there. There's pieces you keep, just for yourself. And so we take a moment to sit with it and make sure that it does feel good and aligned for you, to put it out there for the world.
I love that. This was so helpful. I had some aha moments, like I said, that as you were sharing this. So thank you so much. This idea of, identifying the fear and where's that coming from? That was a big one. And then looking at the message and the mission and what does it look like now? Because remembering that just like you, your clients are evolving too and helping to identify that for them. And that your evidence often is when they get really fired up about something that like, oh, okay, we've really hit on this here, and this totally makes sense. Um, and then when you were talking about looking for those common themes and that you called it the golden thread of like where are those threads coming and like, can I dig deeper and how do I do it in a way that is gonna like allow them to be vulnerable and share? And then figuring out what piece of that makes sense for them to put out into the world to make themselves more relatable. So I love all of that. That was really helpful. Thank you so much. One of the things I like to do at the end to wrap it up is always just ask a few little, I call it the lanyard section. It's the little something extra. It's a little bit just about you. If you're okay, I have just a couple more quick questions for you and then we'll wrap.
Sure.
Okay. So I love to ask people, what is something that brings you pleasure or joy right now?
Sitting in the sunshine. I live in Southern California and I have 2 little kids. So when I get a quiet moment, just to like soak in the sunshine by myself, it's just nice.
Yeah.
And as an introvert too, just like, the solitude, it's rare in, with a 2 and a 4-year-old. And it's just a nice moment of peace.
I love that. Okay. What is something exciting going on in your business right now?
I am having so much fun with my own podcast. That has been an exciting thing, getting to meet and interview cool people, Nikki being one of them.
Thank you.
She is on my podcast as well. And it's just been an exciting way to go deeper into people's stories, kind of like what we were talking about, just kind of, get that first step into the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally makes sense. All right. So how can somebody listening right now get a little bit more Maven in their life? How do they get in touch with you? What's the next step?
Yeah, so I would say head over to my podcast. You can subscribe to the Copywriting for Coaches podcast, and you can do that on Apple or wherever you get your podcast, or go to copywritingforcoachespodcast.com.
Perfect. And that, of course, will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful to have had this time with you. You had some light bulb moments going on there for me. And so I'm super grateful for that. And for you, the listener, thank you so much for showing up. I would encourage you, if you had a big takeaway from today and a nice little aha yourself, please share it. Like share it with a friend, share it with me, share it with Maven, like reach out, connect with us and let us know. And I am wishing you so much success in everything that you're doing. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/Maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.
Are you ready to increase your confidence in your sales conversations? I have a gift for you that is going to show you exactly how to do that. It is my Closing the Sale ebook. It's all about leveling up your confidence, giving you language to use, how to seamlessly move somebody through the sales process. And you can get it right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/Maven. Go grab it.